Had a lot of questions about wiring lately, so I thought today I'd go through a very easy to use tool that you can access for free online and walk you through the way to figure out the most basic wiring combinations if you're ever stuck and before you start pulling things off and messing around with your guitar. So I'm Dave with Stringing It Together, and let's dive in. So I made a video on typical 5-way switch wiring combinations, and I showed the most basic combinations, or the most simple, the typical Stratocaster combinations that you would most likely find when you open one up. And there's a whole host of different variations, and somebody had a question about, well, what if you just had one tone knob? And it's a very simple solution, but I thought instead of just explaining how to do it, I'd show you the process that you can do it on your own. So basically what you're going to do is go to Google and search guitar electronics, which I'm sure you know how to do. And this is a very useful resource for figuring out any guitar wiring diagram. So they have a bunch of free ones, and if you're really stuck and you want a more complex one, then you can order a custom diagram. So you do have to pay for those, but most of the most basic ones are free, and then you can even just add on your own tweaks to it once you have a basic understanding. So search guitar electronics, go to diagrams and resources, and then you'll have a bunch of different options here. Okay, so here's the custom wiring diagrams that you can buy, but if you want just a basic one for free, then you can scroll down to here and you can go to 1 pickup guitar wiring diagram, 2 pickup, 3 pickup, bunch of different mods, but we're going to focus on just the very simple question that he asked, which was, I'm assuming, a 3 pickup guitar wiring diagram. So this is a bunch of different combinations you can scroll through, and I'm assuming it was 3 single coils, and he was asking about 1 tone control. So I can scroll down easily here, and there's 3 single coils, 5-way lever switch, 1 volume, 1 tone with a single master tone. Click on that and it gives you this wiring diagram. So this can be a little bit confusing if it's the first time looking at a wiring diagram, but this is a pretty good place to start because you're not dealing with a humbucker, which has like a north and south start and finish. It's just 1 hot and 1 ground. And when you're first starting out, you can basically just ignore the ground because everything's going to be connected to the ground. So real quick review of how a switch works. I won't go into too much depth because I have an entire video, which I'll link to down below, which if you have no understanding, you definitely want to go back and check that out before you jump into trying to wire a guitar. But quick review, you have 2 sides, an A and a B. You have a common, which in this case is right here and right here. They're always on opposite sides. And I also have this, something that I created, which is called the guitar wiring cheat sheet, which you can download in the description below. And it's basically a comprehensive guide for anyone that wants to, get started on guitar wiring. Here I have a 5-way blade switch wiring, so it just shows you the internal connections. So in position 1, you have the common, which is always connected in all cases. A0 is connected to A1, B0 is connected to B1, 0 to 1 and 2, 0 to 1 and 2, and down the line 0 to 2, 0 to 2 and 3, 0 to 3. It comes, when you sort of put it all together like that, it kind of becomes fairly simple. If that's completely confusing, then go back and watch this video. It'll explain it all. But for now, we're just going to focus on how to read this wiring diagram. So in this case, the common is up here as opposed to down here. It doesn't really matter. It depends on which switch you're buying. But this is the common. This is the common. So normally with multiple tones, you would have both sides engaged. In this case, you actually only need 1 side because it's so simple. You have this one following the hot path going into 3, 2, this one going into 1. And remember that in the different positions, these are hooked up to the 0, which is the common. The common goes to the volume. And in terms of the master tone, it's just leeching off the volume. So really, this is almost the most simple diagram that you could come up with, but it's a good starting point, and it also answers the question that was asked. And you can apply this to any wiring diagram, right? So if you have a more complicated wiring diagram that you're trying to figure out, then it's pretty extensive here in this basic wiring diagram combination. You have, even something like push-pull pots, all kinds of different things, 3 humbuckers, 3-way toggle switch, push-pull to activate middle humbucker. So even more advanced things like that you can find on this, and you can just follow the same process. Click on the one that you want and try to figure out what's happening with it. And then you can also download that guitar wiring cheat sheet and refer to it, especially in the switch wiring combinations, because it'll show you the internal connections. And I also include the most basic wiring schemes here, like your typical Stratocaster wiring scheme. So if you're new to guitar wiring, download that. You can go back and watch the entire course, which I'll link to. It's a whole playlist, and that should give you a pretty good start. And then you're making sure that you're understanding it before you start pulling things off. So hopefully that was helpful. I'll put a link to the Guitar Electronics website where you can find all those diagrams for free, as well as the guitar wiring cheat sheet, which you can use as a reference, something that I wish I had when I was starting out. And that's all for now. Give this a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and I'll see you next week.